Ever wondered what goes on behind the calm exterior of a Sigma female after a breakup? They don't process heartbreak the way you think they do. Dive into the fascinating world of their post-split wisdom, where healing isn't about tears, but about strategic growth and unparalleled independence. A Sigma female is that woman. She walks her own path. She's not loud, but she's never ignored. She doesn't follow rules. She makes her own. So when love breaks, Sigma female doesn't crumble. Sigma female analyzes. Sigma female adapts. Sigma female evolves. And while others are posting sad quotes online, Sigma female is building something no one's ready for. Let's be real. Breakups suck. They mess with your head. Even the strongest women feel that sting. The emptiness, the what now moments. You question your worth. You replay every little moment. Some days you can't tell if you're sad or just bored. But here's where the Sigma female does things differently. Lesson 1. Pain is data. The Sigma female doesn't treat pain like something to escape. She doesn't drown it in distractions or bury it under fake smiles. She sits with it. She feels every inch of it, but she doesn't let it break her. Instead, she listens. She treats every ache like a message, every tear like a signal. When the average person is asking, "Why me?" the Sigma female is asking, "What is this teaching me?" That's the difference. She doesn't play victim to her emotions. She lets them speak, and then she decodes them. Pain, for the Sigma female, is like a map. It points her toward the wound, the pattern, the trigger. If she felt betrayed, she won't just cry about it. She'll ask why she didn't see it sooner. If she felt ignored, she won't spiral. She'll ask where she learned to stay silent when she should have spoken up. She'll trace that silence back to its root. Maybe childhood, maybe conditioning, maybe some moment she forgot but her body remembered. And once she sees the pattern, she breaks it. She doesn't stay stuck. She upgrades. Pain to her is raw, honest feedback. Not a curse, not a punishment, just data. Real, unfiltered emotional data. She looks at the way she reacted, the way she tolerated, the way she gave more than she received, and she doesn't shame herself for it. She studies it like a scientist. No drama, just facts. If she kept falling for emotionally unavailable men, she won't blame them forever. She'll ask why she was drawn to people who couldn't meet her. She'll get real with herself, even when it stings. That's how she grows. Not by pretending, not by numbing, but by observing. Every breakup gives her insight. Every heartbreak hands her a mirror. And Sigma female never turns away from that mirror. She stares into it until things get clear. Until she sees her own strength staring back. Because underneath the pain, there's always a deeper truth. Always. And she's not afraid to dig for it. That's what makes her different. She doesn't fall apart. She falls inward. She unpacks the emotion, all of it. The grief, the rage, the guilt, the regret, the softness too. Then she reorganizes it. She makes space. She removes what no longer serves her. And then she builds again. Stronger, wiser, softer, but sharper. Sigma female knows pain is never random. It always has something to say. Most people just aren't quiet enough to hear it. But she hears it, and she listens close. She uses it, turns it into self-awareness, turns it into boundaries, turns it into art. She doesn't need to scream about her healing. It shows in how she carries herself, in how she moves, in how she no longer entertains what once drained her. So yeah, pain hurts. But for the Sigma female, it's also one of her best teachers. The pain doesn't define her. It informs her. It shapes her into a woman who knows exactly who she is and what she will never settle for again. And that's power. Lesson 2. Detachment is strength. The Sigma female doesn't stay attached to people who've already let go of her. Once a relationship ends, she doesn't chase, she doesn't beg, and she doesn't try to force something that's clearly broken. She walks away, not out of coldness, but out of self-respect, because she understands something most people don't. Not everything is meant to stay, and not every goodbye is a loss. Some are protection, some are direction. When love stops being mutual, she doesn't argue. She accepts it. Detachment, for the Sigma female, is a conscious choice. It's not about shutting down emotionally, it's about honoring her own worth. She refuses to invest energy into something that doesn't value her presence. That's her boundary. That's her power. And the truth is, it's not easy. She feels everything deeply, even if she doesn't show it. She'll hurt in private. She'll cry in silence. But she won't compromise her self-worth to keep someone in her life. That's the difference. She knows the difference between love and attachment. Love grows, attachment drains. Love supports, attachment clings. And once that line is crossed, she lets go. Because the Sigma female doesn't need anyone to complete her. She's already whole. Anyone who comes into her life is an addition, not a lifeline. And if that connection turns toxic, or one-sided, or full of false promises, she detaches, calmly, completely. No need for dramatic exits, no need for final speeches. She just stops showing up where she's not respected. That's not weakness, that's clarity. A lot of people confuse detachment with not caring, but that's not it. The Sigma female does care. She just doesn't let her emotions control her decisions. She leads with her values, not her feelings. And if a person or situation doesn't align with those values, she lets it go. Not everything deserves a second chance. Not everyone deserves access to her peace. Detachment protects that peace. Detachment gives her room to breathe, to think, to realign, and it creates space for something better. Sigma females don't carry emotional baggage into their next chapter. They release it. They forgive without needing an apology. They heal without needing closure. That's what keeps them free. That's what keeps them powerful. You won't find them checking their ex's profile at 2 a.m. You won't see them lurking in old memories. Once it's done, it's done. Not because they didn't love, but because they loved themselves more. Detachment isn't heartless. It's a form of emotional intelligence. It's choosing peace over chaos. It's understanding that clinging to the past won't change it. And it's realizing that real love never needs to be begged for. So when the Sigma female lets go, it's not to hurt anyone. It's to come back to herself, her calm, her clarity, her power. She doesn't just move on. She rises, quietly, strongly, unapologetically, because she knows anything that's meant for her will meet her where she is, and anything that leaves was never hers to begin with. That's detachment, and that's her strength. Before we move on, if you're nodding along or this is hitting something real, pause for a second. Tap that like button so more Sigma females find this, and if you've ever had to detach for your own peace, drop a heart in the comments. Alright, now let's talk about silence, because for Sigma females, it's never empty. Lesson 3. Her silence is intentional. The Sigma female doesn't speak to be heard. She speaks when there's something worth saying. After a breakup, she goes quiet. Not because she's weak, not because she's lost, but because silence is where she finds her power. While others are posting cryptic quotes or sharing emotional rants online, the Sigma female is logging off. She's not here to perform her pain. She's here to process it, privately, intentionally. Her silence isn't emptiness. It's full of thought, full of fire, full of clarity. People who don't understand her will mistake it for indifference. They'll think she doesn't care. But she does. She just doesn't believe in explaining herself to those who don't value her presence in the first place. Not everyone gets a front row seat to her healing. Not everyone deserves a response. That ex who ghosted her? He won't get a reaction. That friend who's suddenly curious about the drama? She won't feed it. Sigma female isn't here for the noise. She's here for the rebuild. Silence is her strategy, because in silence, she can hear herself again. No opinions, no pressure, just truth, real, raw, grounding truth. She listens to her body, to her thoughts, to the patterns that led her here. And in that quiet, she gets real with herself. No more pretending, no more trying to fix what was already broken. Just presence, just peace. The Sigma female doesn't believe in begging for closure. She creates it, on her own terms, through reflection, through action, through stillness. Her silence is how she sorts the truth from the noise. It's how she sees who checks in and who just checks up. It's how she watches people reveal themselves, who shows up, who disappears, who only cared when she was available. And while the world's busy talking, she's planning, plotting her next chapter, growing in the dark. Silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. With the Sigma female, it means everything is. She's writing new rules, setting new boundaries, cleaning house, emotionally and mentally. She doesn't need to scream her worth. She lives it, quietly. And that quiet can be uncomfortable for people used to chaos. It forces them to sit with themselves. It forces them to wonder, what is she thinking? Why hasn't she called? How is she so calm? And that's the point. The Sigma female isn't in the business of proving anything. She's in the business of becoming. That takes space. That takes quiet. Her silence is her sanctuary. It's how she resets, how she rises, how she returns, not to who she was, but to who she was always meant to be. And when she does speak again, it'll be intentional, measured, powerful. Because every word she speaks will come from alignment, not emotion, from strength, not desperation. Sigma female doesn't need to announce her growth. It shows, in her eyes, in her energy, in how she no longer responds to things that used to trigger her. That's evolution. That's emotional discipline. That's the art of moving in silence. And the Sigma female? She's a master of it. Lesson 4. Standards get upgraded. After a breakup, the Sigma female doesn't just walk away from a person, she walks away from a version of herself that once tolerated less. That's the shift. That's the power. She doesn't look at the past with regret. She looks at it as proof of what she'll never allow again. Her standards don't stay the same after heartbreak. They get sharper, cleaner, higher. She doesn't seek revenge. She just becomes unavailable to anything that doesn't feel aligned. Before, maybe she was more flexible, more forgiving, more open to excuses. But now, she's done romanticizing potential. If a connection doesn't feel mutual, mature, and rooted in honesty, she's out. Quietly. No announcements, no second guesses. Her energy is too sacred to waste. Sigma females don't come out of heartbreak bitter. They come out more refined. That breakup taught her exactly what didn't work, and she takes notes. She no longer sees red flags and calls them challenges. She sees them as what they are, warnings, and she listens. She's not looking for perfection. She's looking for presence, respect, effort, realness. If she doesn't feel emotionally safe, she won't stay. If she has to ask twice, she won't ask again. Her standards are rooted in peace now, not pressure. She doesn't want someone to fix her. She wants someone who knows how to hold space for a woman who's already whole. And if she doesn't find that, she's not afraid to keep walking alone. That's what people don't get about the Sigma female. She doesn't raise her standards to look hard to get. She raises them because she finally knows what she deserves. And she refuses to settle for anything that drains her softness, questions her worth, or confuses her clarity. It's not just about dating either. Her standards shift in friendships, in work, in family dynamics. Anyone who doesn't bring mutual respect to the table, she pulls back, quietly, firmly. That's self-respect. She doesn't announce her boundaries. She lives by them, and the world adjusts or exits. Either way, she's good. This isn't about building walls, it's about building filters. Not everyone gets access, not everyone gets her time, her heart, her energy, and that's not cold, that's wise. She's not jaded, she's just done overgiving, done explaining, done waiting for people to become who they promised to be. The Sigma female now expects what she gives: honesty, depth, consistency, and she gives herself permission to expect it without apology. Because love isn't supposed to feel like chasing, it's supposed to feel like choosing, every day, freely, and she's not afraid to wait for that, even if it means standing alone for a while. Loneliness doesn't scare her, settling does, so she upgrades. Quietly, no need for big declarations, no need to convince anyone to rise with her. If they can't meet her there, she keeps moving. Her vibe is, come correct or don't come at all. And honestly, that's not high maintenance, that's high value. That's a woman who finally knows her worth and has the courage to act like it. If this is helping you see yourself a little clearer or reminding you of your own growth, go ahead and subscribe. I'm building this space for women who are done settling, done shrinking. And while we're here, hit the bell too. You'll want to catch what's coming next. Let's talk about solitude, because for Sigma females, being alone is a power source. Lesson 5. Solitude is fuel. After a breakup, most people panic at the silence. They rush to fill the space. Another date, another distraction, anything not to feel alone. But the Sigma female? She leans into it. She doesn't fear the silence. She welcomes it. Because for her, solitude isn't a punishment. It's a reset. It's where she reconnects with herself, without noise, without influence, without expectations. She's not the type to hop from one relationship to the next just to feel seen. She doesn't need someone else to validate her existence. Her own presence is enough. Solitude gives her space to reflect, to rest, to rebuild. It gives her a chance to listen to her own voice again, something that often gets lost in relationships that take more than they give. When the world tells her, "You need someone," the Sigma female replies, "I already have someone, me." That's not arrogance. That's alignment. Being alone doesn't make her feel empty. It makes her feel grounded. She does things others avoid, sits with her thoughts, eats alone, travels solo, creates rituals that nourish her soul. She gets to know herself again, her needs, her triggers, her joy, and through that, she becomes even more self-aware, even more emotionally sharp. Solitude doesn't isolate her, it strengthens her. It teaches her how to show up for herself, not just physically, but emotionally. The Sigma female doesn't use alone time to plot revenge or relive the past. She uses it to redirect her focus, to build new routines, to explore parts of herself that got neglected while loving the wrong person. That could mean journaling in the morning, setting new goals, learning a new skill, or just enjoying the quiet. No pressure, no performance, just presence. She's not waiting to be saved. She's her own rescue plan. People might ask, "Don't you get lonely?" Sure, sometimes. But she knows loneliness is just a feeling. It passes. What matters is how she uses the space. And Sigma female uses it to recharge, to realign, to rewire her mindset. The alone phase becomes sacred. It's when she becomes even more selective. Not out of fear, but out of clarity. She no longer craves attention. She craves connection, real, deep, mutual. If it's not that, she's fine being on her own. She doesn't chase love. She attracts it by being at peace with herself. That's her energy. And people feel it. There's a quiet confidence that follows her wherever she goes. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. But it's unshakable. Because it was built in solitude. Alone time doesn't mean she's hiding. It means she's healing, strengthening, upgrading. No noise, no distractions, just growth. That's where the Sigma female becomes her most magnetic. Not when she's surrounded, but when she's alone and still glowing. So no, she's not rushing into someone new. She's not trying to fill a gap. She's honoring the space and using it as fuel. Because for the Sigma female, solitude is never empty. It's where everything begins again, clearer, cleaner, and more powerful than ever. Lesson 6. She stops explaining. There comes a point when the Sigma female realizes not everyone deserves an explanation. Not everyone is entitled to understand her heart, her decisions, or her silence. After a breakup, she doesn't waste energy explaining why she left, why she stopped responding, or why she no longer entertains certain people. If they didn't value her presence, they don't get access to her reasoning. That's the shift. Before, maybe she over-explained. Maybe she tried too hard to be understood, to justify her standards, to defend her boundaries. But now, she's done. She's not cold. She's clear. She doesn't owe anyone emotional footnotes. She doesn't owe people closure they wouldn't give her. The Sigma female understands that truth doesn't always need to be spoken to be real. Sometimes her silence is the explanation. Her distance is the answer. And if someone really cared, they'd notice the change. They'd reflect. they'd ask. But if they don't, she doesn't force it. She no longer feels the need to soften her boundaries for people who only loved her when she was easy to access. It's not her job to make others comfortable with her growth. She doesn't explain why she cut ties with a friend who kept crossing lines. She doesn't break down the emotional labor behind every no she gives. She just moves accordingly. Because the Sigma female knows that energy is currency, and over-explaining is emotional overspending. She's done investing where there's no return. It's not bitterness, it's wisdom. She's learned that people hear what they want to hear. They twist words, overlook truth, and center their own ego. So why keep talking? Why keep pouring? Why keep reopening wounds to make someone else feel better about what they did? She chooses peace, silence, space. The Sigma female doesn't need validation to trust her own choices. If someone doesn't get it, that's okay. Let them wonder. Let them assume. Let them gossip. She's too focused on healing, building, and protecting her peace to correct the narrative. Growth doesn't always come with explanations. Sometimes it just looks like her walking away, unbothered, unavailable, uninterested in rehashing the past. And that confuses people, because they expect a fight, a meltdown, a final goodbye speech. But she's already said everything she needed to say, maybe not out loud, but in how she moved. That's enough. The Sigma female no longer explains her softness, her silence, her standards, her shift. If you know her, you'll feel it. If you don't, you'll miss it. Either way, she's not pausing her journey to clarify. Her clarity is internal now. It's calm, quiet, unshakable. She's not looking for agreement. She's looking for alignment. If it's there, it flows. If it's not, she lets go, with no hard feelings, but also no breakdown of why. And honestly, that's where her power is, in not needing to be understood by everyone, in being okay with not being liked by everyone, in standing firm without needing to convince anyone why, because the Sigma female finally knows the right people won't need an explanation, and the wrong ones wouldn't listen anyway. If you've ever felt tired of justifying who you are or why you feel what you feel, this is your moment. Let me know in the comments what you're done explaining, and if you haven't already, liking this video is the best way to tell YouTube that this kind of honesty matters. Now, let's move into boundaries and why they're no longer optional. Lesson 7. Boundaries become sacred. After the breakup, the Sigma female doesn't just draw lines, she carves them in stone. Not to push people away, but to protect her peace, to protect her time, to protect herself. What used to be flexible is now firm. What used to slide now stops cold, because the Sigma female has learned every time she said yes when she meant no, she betrayed herself. Every time she let someone overstep without consequences, she made room for disrespect. And she's done with that. Boundaries aren't rules for others. They're self-respect in action. They're a way of saying, this is where I end and you begin. And the Sigma female takes that seriously. She doesn't negotiate her energy anymore. She doesn't explain why she needs space or why certain people no longer have access. She just sets the line and lives by it. If someone crosses it, she pulls back, calmly, directly, and without guilt. Because here's the thing, boundaries aren't meant to make others comfortable. They're meant to keep the Sigma female whole. For too long she was too open, too accommodating, too afraid of being called cold or difficult. Now she sees the cost, her time, her energy, her sanity, and she's not paying that price anymore. A Sigma female's boundaries come from clarity, not fear. They're not reactive, they're intentional. They're based on what honors her, not on who might walk away. She no longer sees boundaries as walls. They're doors with locks. Not everyone gets the key, not everyone gets to come inside, and that's not selfish, that's healthy. People might call her distant, hard to read, unavailable. That's fine. Let them. She's not here to be understood by people who only show up when it's convenient for them. Her time is earned, her access is earned, and if you break her trust, you lose it. Simple. The Sigma female doesn't argue about her boundaries. She doesn't debate them. She just lives by them. If someone takes it personally, that's their issue, not hers. She's not shrinking herself to make others feel secure. Not anymore. Her boundaries show up in small things, turning off her phone without warning, saying no without a reason, ending conversations that drain her, not responding just because it's expected. It's not attitude, it's alignment. It's knowing what feels good and honoring that feeling. She's done bending, she's done explaining, she's done being emotionally available to people who don't pour back into her. Sigma females guard their peace like gold because they know how rare it is. That peace was earned through heartbreak, through growth, through silence, through solitude. So no, she's not going to let just anyone walk in and mess with that. Her boundaries are how she keeps herself soft without being taken advantage of, how she stays open without being exposed. She doesn't need to raise her voice to be firm. She just sets the line. And if someone respects it, great. If they don't, they fade out. No drama, no begging, just distance. Because for the Sigma female, boundaries aren't optional anymore. They're sacred, and anyone who doesn't honor them isn't meant to stay. Lesson 8. She reclaims her identity. After the breakup, the Sigma female doesn't go looking for someone new. She goes looking for someone old, herself. The version of her that existed before the compromise, before the emotional weight, before she made herself smaller just to keep the peace. Because let's be honest, some relationships don't break you. They just blur you, slowly, quietly, and by the time it ends, you're not sure who you are without them. The Sigma female feels that. She sees it, and then she decides to reclaim everything she gave away. Not just time, not just energy, but pieces of her identity that got dimmed, edited, or forgotten. She doesn't rush it. She doesn't perform it. She rebuilds it, intentionally, day by day, boundary by boundary. She remembers the things that made her feel alive, the things that were hers before she had to share herself, her routines, her creativity, her calm, her edge, all the little pieces she put on hold to be understood or easier to love. She picks them back up, like armor, like home. Because identity for a Sigma female is sacred. And during the relationship, maybe she compromised too much. Maybe she tried to be the version of herself that he wanted. Softer here, quieter there, less of this, more of that. But now, she's done shape-shifting. She's done filtering her essence just to be chosen. Reclaiming her identity doesn't mean she hates him. It means she loves herself more now. It means she's ready to come back to her core. Unapologetically, she starts dressing for herself again, speaking for herself, showing up for herself in ways she used to expect from others. She moves from needing approval to trusting her own taste, her own pace, her own voice. And yeah, some people might not recognize her anymore. That's fine. She's not trying to be recognizable. She's trying to be real. That's the thing. Sigma females don't rebuild to prove anything. They rebuild because they refuse to live disconnected from themselves. She takes back control of the narrative, the version of her that was too sensitive, too intense, too deep. That's the version she honors now. That's the version she protects. She doesn't chase a glow-up for revenge. Her glow-up is internal. It's in how she wakes up lighter, how she trusts herself more, how she no longer explains her vibe. Reclaiming identity also means revisiting old wounds, seeing how she lost herself, where she betrayed her own needs, what parts of her story she let someone else write. And then she rewrites it, authentically, boldly, no co-authors. This is her story now. She's not the woman who got left. She's the woman who found herself again. There's power in that, quiet power, power that shows up in her eyes, in her voice, in how she no longer seeks permission to be who she is. The Sigma female doesn't become someone new after heartbreak. She returns to someone true. And once she's back in alignment with herself, nothing can shake her. Because this time, she knows, her identity isn't up for negotiation. It's not a role. It's not a costume. It's her. I knew a Sigma female who once said, "That breakup felt like death, but it gave birth to me." And she meant it, not in some poetic, overused quote kind of way, but in the way you mean something when it hits deep. That breakup cracked her open. It stripped away everything she thought she needed, everything she thought she was. It left her staring at a version of herself she barely recognized, but instead of falling apart, she stood still. She didn't rush to distract herself. She didn't post sad stories. She didn't text him one last time. She just stood there, in the quiet, in the discomfort, and let the truth settle in. That relationship had taught her so much. About love, yes, but more than anything, about herself. What she tolerated, what she gave, what she lost, what she abandoned inside herself just to be chosen. And it was in that stillness that she realized the breakup didn't ruin her. It revealed her. For the first time in a long time, she saw clearly. And what she saw wasn't weak. It wasn't broken. It wasn't bitter. It was unfinished, untouched, unapologetically raw. And that's where she started again. She didn't start with revenge. She didn't start with bitterness. She started with clarity, with herself, with healing that didn't need an audience. She deleted the messages. She stopped checking for updates. She let go, not just of him, but of the version of her that waited to be understood. She poured that energy into something that fed her, something that made her come alive again. That death became her rebirth, and 6 months later, she wasn't just healed. She was building something, a business, a purpose, a life that had her at the center, not him, not the fantasy, not the pain, her. She didn't do it to prove a point. She didn't do it to show anyone what they missed. She did it because she finally remembered who she was, without all the noise. And that's what made it real. The Sigma female doesn't care about winning the breakup. She's not interested in one-upping anyone. She's interested in coming home to herself, in rebuilding from the ground up, in becoming so rooted in her worth that nothing, no breakup, no silence, no loss, can shake her again. That's the only win that matters. That's the kind of power you don't need to post about. It speaks in your energy, in your boundaries, in how you move now. That's the shift. And it's not just her story. It's the story of every Sigma female who chose herself in the silence, who let heartbreak break patterns instead of breaking her spirit, who got tired of being available to people who didn't deserve her softness. So yeah, Sigma females don't just survive breakups. They dissect them. They study the lessons. They pull out the truth, even when it hurts. They look at the ugly parts, the unhealed parts, the ignored parts, and they grow, quietly, steadily, without anyone needing to clap for them, because they're not performing, they're evolving, they're rising, not to be seen, but to be solid. And when they return, they're untouchable, not because they're cold, but because they're whole. And when a woman becomes whole, she stops settling, she stops shrinking, she stops chasing. These lessons aren't just cute lines in a caption. They're survival tools, they're blueprints, they're reminders for anyone out there feeling emotionally sidelined, for anyone who's ever given too much just to be kept around, for anyone who forgot who they were because someone else couldn't handle their depth. These lessons don't come easy, they come through fire. But if you're a Sigma female, you already know you were built for this. You're not broken, you're being rebuilt, better, clearer, louder on the inside, even if you're silent on the outside. And if you're listening to this thinking, yeah, that's me, then take this moment to honor that version of you. The one who stayed when no one else did. The one who kept going, even when it didn't make sense. The one who didn't need saving, just space. If this spoke to you, drop a black heart in the comments. Share your lesson, your shift, your moment of clarity, and speak from where you are. Messy or healed, doesn't matter. This space is for you, and don't stop here. In my next video, we're going deeper. We're talking about how to reclaim your peace in a world that keeps trying to pull you out of it. How to stop explaining yourself. How to protect your energy like it's your life, because it is. So yeah, keep walking, keep rising, keep choosing you. Stay grounded, stay graceful, stay Sigma, always.